Uninformed immigrants are at a huge disadvantage in court, in financial and legal matters, and also sometimes in life. Well, what can we do about it? I'll tell you what. We can train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to maximize their lives regardless of their immigration status. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. I am your immigration lawyer and host, Otis Landerholm, and this is the Empowered Immigrant Podcast. All right, hello everyone. This is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream, and you have tuned in to the Empowered Immigrant Podcast. Hello and welcome. In today's episode of the Empowered Immigrant Podcast, I want to talk about what empowered is really all about. What does that term empowered really even mean? And by way of background, I also want to kind of introduce myself for anyone who is not a client of our firm or anybody that's just getting to know our podcast. So my name is Otis Landerholm, and I'm an immigration lawyer. I've been an immigration lawyer since I graduated from law school in 2010. And before law school, I lived in 5 different countries throughout the world, all right? I lived in Spain, Argentina, Japan, China, and Ecuador. And I loved traveling and loved living in other parts of the world. I was a linguistics major undergrad, and I really loved meeting people from other parts of the world and getting to know them and really connecting with people from other cultures and other cultural backgrounds. It's a big part of why I believe so passionately in immigration law, because in my opinion, everyone should have the right to travel where they want to, all right? People should have the right to travel where they want to, irrespective of their immigration status. That's my opinion, that's my belief, and that's one of the fundamental principles here within my office. But where does this whole concept of empowerment come in? Well, let me tell you a story. So when I first graduated from law school, my wife and I had recently gotten married, and I guess we had been married for 1 year after I graduated, and then I had taken the bar exam, and we had our first baby on the way, all right? And so we were going to start a family, and I was applying for jobs to work as an immigration lawyer in various immigration law firms. And eventually I decided to start my own firm, all right? I worked for a couple of attorneys, but then I was like, I can do this myself. And so I started the firm. I started really immediately after getting my bar exam results. So I got sworn in as a lawyer in December of the year 2010. And in January of 2011, then I opened my first, signed the lease for a little back corner office there in the Mission District of San Francisco. And I started seeing clients and started the firm in January of 2011. And so great. So that was great. My son then was born in February, and I had my first trial in immigration court at the end of February of 2011. And it was like boom, boom, boom. Getting things going and making things happening and starting a law firm and starting a family and like doing it all at the same time, right? Trial by fire. So it wasn't until 2 years after that, fast forward 2 years, and I had just started the firm. I had just started to hire my first employees. Things were, I was winning cases in immigration court. I was starting to build a little bit of a name for myself. And one day, I'll never forget it, I came home and my wife was there, and our son was there, and my wife looks at me and she says, Otis, I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, stopped, I was like, what? I didn't understand, right? And she was like, this is not working. And I was like, what's not working? And she said, have you seen our bank account? And I was sort of aware, but I was not very aware. And the truth is that I was so focused on winning cases, and I was so focused on getting our name out there, and I was so focused on getting the next new client for our firm, I wasn't paying attention to how I was managing the firm. All right. And the truth is and this is very common for lawyers, actually. We graduate from law school. We are not trained in law school how to run a business. What we're trained in law school is how to argue. And we become very good at arguing, especially in court, which, everybody in my office, we are good at, talented at finding creative legal arguments, creative legal solutions to complex immigration problems. That's really what we do. All right. But somewhere in there, I had started to run a business and a law firm that was losing money every single month. And what my wife is awesome, if you know her, and what she was pointing out to me clearly is like, yo, you need to wake up, because we are losing money every single month. We have no more savings left. And like, you're going to lose this whole thing and ruin our family. All right. And you've got to shapen up, bub. That's basically what she didn't say it in those words, but that's basically what it was. And it was a serious wake-up call. And all of a sudden, I was like, wow, I've got to rethink my strategy, because what I discovered is I was not empowered. And I didn't know it. It's like you come out of law school and you think you're all smart, and you think you're all capable. And then you face the reality of the world, and it's like, wow, maybe I really don't know everything that I thought I knew. All right. And so what did I do? I actually took the last bit of our money and I hired a consultant. I hired somebody who really knew how to manage law firms effectively and had a proven track record. And this type of person is not cheap, by the way. Right? This was an expensive hire. All right. But I'm so glad. It was like worth every cent, because this person came into our firm and started having conversations with me and started to teach me the things that I didn't know about the management of my own law firm and my own business, so that I could achieve the goals that I have in my life, so that I could achieve the life that I want. All right. So that I could achieve the life that I want. And so it was a moment in time for me where I look back and I'm just like so grateful that I was willing to ask for help, put my own pride aside, ask for help, so that I can start to learn, I can learn how to improve the things that I'm doing in my life so that I'm more effective at it. All right. And then ultimately what I was talking about there is able to earn the money that we need to earn and to be able to afford the simple, small firm that we were running back then. All right. And then as we grow, look for a way to grow more profitably and more effectively into the future. But here's the truth. In order for me to go through that, I had to learn a lot, and I had to develop myself a lot. And in that process, I discovered a lot about myself, about why I was maybe afraid of hiring the staff that I wanted to hire, or maybe I was afraid of having those tough conversations with employees that like, hey, you've got to step up in this area and this area. I was also quite honestly afraid of having those tough conversations with our clients. Like, clients had signed an agreement with me, and they had hired our office to do things, and sometimes they would make their monthly payments, sometimes they wouldn't. And it was hard for me to have that very confrontational conversation like, yo, we need you to pay this month, right? And now, if you're our client, you know that I'm much less, I don't have that issue. I've worked through it, right? But when I first started, it was difficult for me to have those conversations with people and to hold people accountable. All right. That's called holding people accountable. It's also called being a responsible business owner. And I was not that all those now 7 years ago when I went through this process. So what I want to say, all right, and what I encourage us all to think about is have you ever almost lost a business that you tried to start out with? Have you ever almost lost everything? Have you ever like been very close to going completely broke before? All right. And the other thing is have you ever actually gone broke before? Have you ever actually lost everything before? All right. Because if you have, you know what it's like to be disempowered, and you know how isolating and terrifying and nerve-wracking and anxiety causing that can be. All right. And you also know that if you go through it, you can become stronger after going through it. And if you've gone through it, you can like set yourself up to really be able to achieve more after having gone through that and survived. All right. And so it's something to consider. People who have pushed themselves and have grown, right? Pushed themselves to grow or have grown kind of by force. They are more powerful in who they're being, and that experience gives them a bit of confidence. And if you've ever been through that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so it gives us some insight into what it means to be, quote unquote, empowered. And for me, after having that experience and then taking on my own personal growth and then becoming determined to be like the best leader that I can possibly be, and becoming determined to never be in that situation ever again, so that I can be the best husband, the best father, the best leader, the best employer, the best lawyer that I can possibly be, and ultimately the best human being and man that I can possibly be. Like, that's really what has had me go through the discovery of what it is to be empowered. All right. And I now have gone through this for several years, and I've gone through a lot of different trainings and courses and things like that, because every time I go through it and every time I discover something new, it's like, wow, things start to get better in my life, in my business, with my clients, with everything else. And it's like our win rate is partially to account for that. The success that we're having within the firm is accounting for that. The success that I'm having in my personal life is accounting for that also. And it's like, I really want to share that. And the more successes that I'm experiencing in my life and in business, the more I want to share it with other people. And that's really the basis for this podcast. All right. I want to share what it is to be empowered, because we all can achieve empowerment in our lives, and it's so worth going for, because it makes all the difference in the world. All right. So after I've gone through this, and after I've gone through all this training, really, what is empowerment about? Empowerment fundamentally is about being able to be authentic, being able to be ourselves. All right. But, and no matter what comes in our way. All right. And so what that looks like, and really to come from a powerful place, it means that we can be fully self-expressed. Like, we have zero fear in being ourselves. We can say what needs to be said. We can hold other people accountable. We can go to, I go to my wife and I say, hey, this thing, I love you, but this particular thing did not work for me. All right. And so we've got to find a way to work around it. All right. And we've got to make this improvement, whatever it might be, in our relationship. Or, it's also going and saying, hey, look, I made this mistake. All right. I made this mistake or that mistake, or, let's be straight about it and let's be clear about it and let's move on. All right. Like, mistakes do happen. Errors do happen. Like, we have to learn from them. The other thing that empowerment means, I'm going to go through three things right here. All right. Thing number one is, if we're empowered, we have to be in integrity. All right. Integrity means that we do what we say we're going to do. All right. If we are committed to something, we take action to further our commitment. All right. And if we can't follow through for some reason, we own up to it. We explain where we're at and what we did wrong and how it's not going to work, and this is what we're going to try instead. All right? That means honoring what we are committed to and what we say we're going to do. Thing number 2 that being empowered requires is responsibility. All right? If we're going to be empowered, it's the opposite of being a victim. All right? If we're going to be empowered, we've got to take 100% ownership of everything that's happened to us, everything that is happening right now for us, and everything that will happen in our future. All right? It means blaming no one, having zero resentments. All right? Things that happened in the past, they're in the past. All right? And we wouldn't be the person that we are today if it weren't for those things that happened in the past. All right? We don't have to use the things that happened in the past as big old clubs that we bash ourselves all the time with. Use them as a school. That's one of the trainings of Jim Rohn. Use the past as a school so it can teach us something. Always be exploring what the past can serve to teach us. Don't use it as a weapon to beat ourselves up with. All right? Take ownership. Take 100% responsibility, ownership of everything that is happening in our lives and has happened in our lives. And then it frees us to really be the person that we're meant to be. All right? And then the third thing that's required to be a person who is fully empowered is generosity. Generosity, people confuse it sometimes with giving. But it's more than that. Generosity comes from generating ourselves, all right? Are we willing to give of ourselves? Are we willing to say what's on our mind when it is on our mind? Are we willing to really put ourselves at issue and go for it, all right? Some people are so held back by fear. If you're held back by fear, you are not empowered. The person who's generating themselves is willing to go for it no matter what. That is key to being empowered, all right? If you can master those 3 things and nothing else, you will become an empowered person. Those 3 things, again, are integrity, responsibility, and generosity, all right? And if you can take them on by fully going and acting in favor of your commitments, that's integrity, by fully taking ownership of 100% everything that has happened or is happening in your life, that's responsibility. And if you can fully give of yourself and generate yourself towards whatever it is you're after in your life, that's generosity. If you can do those 3 things, then you can go after, you can create the life that you want to create, all right? And that's true even if you're undocumented. That's true even if you've been deported in the past. That's true even if you've been denied some immigrant visa or something like that. It doesn't matter what your immigration status is. You can be an empowered person. And I'm here to help you do that. And I want to just share how to achieve that, because every single human has it in them. All right? And I very much want that for you. Thank you so much for being with me today. I'm Otis Landerholm, Landerholm Immigration A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream. And I'm here so that you can be fully empowered. And this is the Empowered Immigrant Podcast. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Empowered Immigrant Podcast. If you like what you heard and if you want to learn more, please go to landerholmimmigration.com/podcast.